He's not. We're not letting him do that in
I'm
the
sorry,
NBA.
but you're not just dribbling it through me like the Harlem.
The Spurs ain't close to winning no championship, young fella. Y'all probably ain't gonna make the playoffs next year. So this notion that just because you getting all this hype and you've been kicking ass in France all these years, that don't mean nothing when he step on the court next year. He got probably gonna be the third best team in Texas. Just in Texas.
With the first pick of the 2023 NBA Draft, Victor Wembanyama became the most talked about prospect since LeBron James. The towering French phenom has been on the radar of scouts, coaches, and players for years, long before he ever stepped onto an NBA court, dubbed the next big thing. Wemby's hype skyrocketed to the point where people were already debating his future MVP, championship runs, and even GOAT status, all before he logged a single minute in the league. But not everyone is fully sold. While most of the basketball world is all-in on Wembanyama, some voices have urged caution. Some are more patient, others less impressed. So who's pumping the brakes on the Wemby hype train, and why? Let's dive into what the skeptics are saying, starting with one of the most underrated big men from the 2000s, Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace may have stepped away from the spotlight, but his voice still carries weight in the basketball world, and when it comes to Wembanyama, he's got a lot to say. Wallace believes in Wemby's potential, but he's also realistic about the challenges ahead. The dude is what? Minus 7'4", maybe 210 pounds? It's going to be tough for him, Wallace said. Most of the centers in the league today aren't built like that. He's got insane ball handling for his size, no doubt, but I've also seen him get cooked before. And being the #1 pick, that just adds even more pressure. Wallace isn't writing Wemby off, though. In fact, he's optimistic, especially with the development system in San Antonio. If he's working with guys like Tim Duncan and David Robinson, that's the kind of mentorship you want. I'll definitely be watching as the Spurs weigh how best to use Wemby, including reports of possibly playing him at power forward instead of center. The spotlight on his rookie season is only getting brighter. There's been talk of the Spurs playing Wembanyama at the 3-2-E's, the physical toll of battling in the paint every night, and honestly, it makes sense. At 7'4", with his frame still developing, avoiding the constant punishment at center could help him stay healthy and productive early on. Still, with Victor's work ethic, it's a safe bet he'll eventually add the strength he needs, much like Giannis Antetokounmpo did over time. Remember, the Greek freak didn't come into the league as a powerhouse, but he built himself into one. Wemby could follow that same blueprint. Meanwhile, shifting gears to Los Angeles, Paul George remains a crucial piece in the Clippers' hopes of chasing a title. He knows he can't do it alone and values having strong teammates around him. One player he's especially high on is Nicolas Batum. George recently opened up about Batum on his podcast, sharing stories about their conversations, including one from a couple of years back when Batum first brought up Victor. At the time, George admits he brushed it off. I remember when he was talking about this Wemby kid, George recalled, I was like, all right, man, chill. You're hyping him up too much. Turns out, Batum was ahead of the curve. So here's how it went down. Someone was talking about this insanely tall kid, like almost 8 feet tall. No exaggeration. And I'm sitting there thinking, hold up. If someone that tall was coming up in the league, we'd all know about him already. Now, there's no doubt Victor Wembanyama has been riding a wave of hype lately, been called the future of the NBA, and some even dare to say his buzz is on the same level as LeBron James back in 2003, but not everyone's buying that comparison. Milwaukee Bucks star Damian Lillard, aka Dame, isn't sold on the idea. In fact, he drew a clear line between the hype surrounding Wemby and the once-in-a-generation buzz that surrounded LeBron when he was just a teenager. Dame made his stance, loud and clear, in a tweet that quickly blew up. He wrote, I was in 7th grade when they were hyping Bron on ESPN, and he's still at the top 20 years later. So stop playing with this dude. Translation: respect the king's legacy and maybe pump the brakes on crowning the next one just yet. Things are getting a little wild. Yes, the latest #1 pick, Victor Wembanyama, has a sky-high ceiling, and if everything goes right, his career could one day echo the greatness of LeBron James. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. In a recent episode of Podcast P with Paul George, Golden State Warriors veteran Draymond Green didn't hold back when asked about the young French star. Draymond, who just re-signed with the Warriors on a 4-year deal, was asked how he would defend Wembanyama. And let's just say he wasn't exactly shaking in his boots. You're not just dribbling through me like the Harlem Globetrotters, Draymond said with a smirk. I'm sorry. Still, he wasn't all criticism. Draymond gave credit where it's due, calling Victor a phenom and praising the fact that he landed in San Antonio. One of the best things to happen to him was going to Coach Pop. That system, that culture, they know how to turn talent into pros. Their player development is elite. But even with all that said, Draymond made it clear he's not quite ready to hand Wemby the crown just yet. Some of the stuff he does, I mean, come on, Draymond's verdict. Victor's a special talent, no doubt. But before we start comparing him to legends, let's see how the kid handles the league. It takes a rare kind of talent to play the way Victor Wembanyama does at his size, but even with all that skill, Draymond Green says there's a blueprint to stop him. You just can't let him get comfortable. You let him get comfortable, you lose, Draymond explained. You're not blocking his shot. He might not even see your hands. So what's the strategy? I'm crowding him from the moment he crosses half court, Green said, as soon as his team grabs the rebound and starts pushing up the floor. I'm right there. You have to do your work early. You can't give him space because once he settles in, it's over. There's no stopping that. Draymond's full court pressure philosophy makes sense, but not everyone is sold on Wembanyama's future dominance. Enter Charles Barkley, the Hall of Famer, and inside the NBA. Personality has long been known for his skepticism, especially when it comes to hyped-up young stars. And once again, Sir Charles isn't quite buying the buzz. While Barkley respects the talent, he's far from convinced that Victor is the league's next unstoppable force. So, the verdict is split. Seasoned vets like Draymond think Wemby's special, but only if he earns it. Meanwhile, Charles Barkley is still firmly in the wait-and-see camp. Charles Barkley isn't sold on Victor Wembanyama, at least, not yet. Sure, the French phenom looks like the real deal, but as Barkley sees it, looking the part and proving it in the NBA are two very different things. Everybody wants this kid to be great-tanned. Maybe he will be, Chuck said, but you really can't know until he plays against grown men. That's a different kind of test. Barkley believes the NBA's physicality will be Victor's biggest challenge. Not only will he have to score against elite defenders, but he'll also have to guard the man that could lead to early foul trouble. I've been around the league for 40 years, Chuck added, and I've only seen one guy who skipped college and came in NBA ready. That's LeBron James. He gave credit to legends like Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett, both future Hall of Famers, but reminded everyone that even they struggled early on. Then Barkley hit a familiar note. Every few years, it's the same story. He's the next Michael Jordan. But come on, we've been saying that for 4 decades. We've never found another one. Chuck mentioned names like Harold Miner and Roy Marble, hyped up in their day but ultimately unable to live up to impossible expectations. His message? Let the kid play, stop the comparisons, and let greatness speak for itself. I want to see the kid play. I hope he's great, said Charles Barkley, but I'm not ready to say he'll dominate the NBA just because he's dominating in the Czech Republic. I don't believe that yet, and Chuck's not alone. In his doubts, Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy voiced his skepticism right after. Victor Wembanyama was drafted by the Spurs. I might be the only one who doesn't think Victor is a sure thing, he tweeted. That body screams break down to me. He followed up with, don't get me wrong, I'd still draft him, but guys like that always seem to break down. Even outside of social media, the concerns are echoed by experts. CBS Sports analyst Colin Wardhenninger wrote that while Victor is clearly a generational talent, there are real questions mainly about how his body will hold up and how quickly he'll adapt to the NBA's speed and physicality. So, while the hype around Wemby is massive, not everyone's convinced. As the season gets underway, all eyes will be on the young start to see if he silences the doubters or proves their fears right. At 7'4", Victor Wembanyama looks like a basketball prototype built for greatness, with guard-like handles, elite shot-blocking instincts, and fadeaways worthy of Dirk Nowitzki. Wemby turns heads every time he touches the floor. But with once-in-a-generation talent comes once-in-a-generation pressure. Wemby isn't just being hyped as the next big thing, he's being measured against LeBron-level expectations. And while his potential is sky-high, it's fair to ask, what could hold him back? Ironically, what makes Victor unique, his height and fluidity, could also be his biggest risk. We've never seen someone that tall move like this. And when you're defying biology, durability becomes a real concern. No one likes to bring up injuries, but history has shown that players with extreme builds often face physical setbacks. Everyone's rooting for a long, healthy career, but beneath the highlight reels, the doubts quietly remain. Victor Wembanyama is 7'4", with the agility of a guard, and the wingspan of a plane butt. With that rare frame come real concerns. He's tall, but not strong yet. NBA legends like Shaq and Berkeley have pointed it out, saying he'll need time to bulk up and adjust to the league's physicality. Victor Wembanyama's highlights are enough to make any basketball fan stop and stare. He's pulling up 4 deep threes, hitting one-legged fadeaways, and making moves you'd expect from a 6 feet 4 inches guard, not a 7 4 inches center. On paper, his offensive skill set looks borderline unstoppable. But when you dig into the numbers, a more grounded reality starts to emerge. Last season, Victor shot just 27.5% from beyond the arc on 5 attempts per game. That's not terrible for a young big man, but it's also a long way from elite. The season before, in the French Pro A-League, he shot just 26% from deep across 16 games. For a player often praised as a unicorn, the outside shooting hasn't quite lived up to the myth yet. That doesn't mean he won't get there. In fact, most experts believe he will. And a big reason for that belief is his relentless work ethic. Wemby isn't just a freak athlete. He's a student of the game. He spends hours watching film, breaking down plays, studying his opponents, and refining every detail of his performance. Coaches and teammates rave about how seriously he approaches his craft and how obsessed he is with improvement. If Victor Wembanyama can pair his drive with physical growth, add muscle, boost stamina, and sharpen his shot, his current weaknesses could become serious strengths. He has the tools to be more than just a highlight machine. He could be the kind of player you build a franchise around. The talent is real. The upside is huge. But in the NBA, talent alone isn't enough. Greatness comes from how you handle the grind, the pressure, and the expectations. Wemby has the chance to become something the league has never seen. Now, the real test begins, proving he can turn potential into legacy.